Welcome back. I had a pretty interesting question about the first part being how many different rifles do I shoot, and how do I maintain proficiency across all those different platforms. So say I shoot about a handful of different setups consistently, but typically if I'm kind of in a cycle for something, I will shoot one rifle consistently, maybe two. So while throughout the year, throughout whatever I'm doing, I might shoot, 5 or 6 different guns for different purposes. Really, I'm spending the majority of my time with only one or two of those, and that's just kind of how I focus my training and what I'm doing for what I have to get done on the range and elsewhere. The question, though, that I thought was more interesting was about how do you maintain proficiency across so many different platforms? And the first way I would answer that is I would say, I don't. So I don't have that many different platforms. I'm keeping everything the same, even if they are slightly different. So I think these two rifles here, I just pulled them off the rack. They have very different purposes, but I'm maintaining a consistency with these rifles. I'm going to talk through these kind of from the back end to the front and why I think I've done a good job of eliminating any inconsistencies with the rifle and finding a way for me to be able to just drop into any gun and shoot it pretty well. So all of my rifles have a SOP mod style stock. I settled on this. It's kind of like what I think is the best stock for me. So anytime I'm making contact with the stock of a rifle, it's the same stock. Almost all of them are in the same position. I will only change the position by one click depending on the rifle and the optic, but usually almost always I'm all the way out, and very rarely am I one click in, and that's no big deal, right? So stock model and stock position is extremely consistent. The next point, some people call it a touch point, whatever you want to call it. The next point of contact between myself and the rifle is in the pistol grip. They all have the same pistol grip. They all have the Sierra Precision SPR grip. So every single rifle has that, whether it is a 308 gun, a 6 ARC gun, 5.56, 9mm, whatever it is, it's the same grip in my hand every time. Triggers. So these two rifles have two different kinds of triggers. This SPR has a Geisley SSAE, and this kind of CQB setup, GP setup has a Knights 2-stage. But the important thing with these triggers is that they're both 2-stage triggers. So I never pick up a rifle and have to kind of recalibrate between a 2-stage and a 1-stage trigger. Very big for me. I'm never surprised by a short pull or a long pull. I always know I'm getting a 2-stage in my rifle. The handguard. So these are two very different handguards. We have a Geisley Mark I. We have, a classic Knights quad rail, but I will never put anything on the bottom of my handguard like a pistol grip, a vert grip, a hand stop, none of that stuff. I will never do that. So I can always throw the handguard down onto some kind of barricade if I have to. My hand falls in the same spot, regardless of the handguard. If I'm putting on a bipod, it goes in roughly the same spot forward of the handguard. So everything is going to be the same as far as my support hand placement and my ability to use any kind of support in the environment with my handguard. Optic height is always going to be roughly the same. So this is probably the lowest optic height that I have, and this one is about the highest for an independent optic. But this one is just about 1.8, and this is about 1.4. And again, I'm maintaining good cheek weld with these rifles that enables me to not really have a big issue with that. Another thing for me that I think really helps with consistency is going to be the sling. So this rifle here, I have it set up corner to corner. So when I say corner to corner, it is on the right side, the outside of the buttstock, and the left side, the inside of the handguard. Now for me, this is a very much in extremis or administrative position. So I will sling it like this to put it on my back when I'm climbing something, carrying something with both hands, something like that. 90% of the time with this rifle, this forward sling position is not up there. It is back at the handguard. It's right here at the handguard, which closely mimics kind of the mid-mount of this rifle. So my slings are kind of always in the same spot as well. So every piece of this rifle that I'm interacting with, regardless of caliber, regardless of the setup, the parts that directly impact me as a shooter are pretty much the same. Again, like I'm not changing between an AK, an MP5, an FNFAL. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm a AR pure shooter, and I think for me that's the way to go. I think for most people that's really the way to go, and that enables you to have, you know, a 6.5 Creedmoor mid-range gas gun and a little baby 300 blackout gun that all feel the same, that all shoot the same for you, so you never have to calibrate between rifles that you're shooting. You're going to see a bunch of stuff in the intro and outro of me shooting different guns, and I think it kind of helps prove the point that if you set up your rifles consistently, you figure out what works for you, and you just always do that thing and don't deviate, you'll never have an issue. You'll be able to pick up your M4, pick up your M110, and have no problems shooting well across the board. So good question, guys. If you have any others, please let me know. Thanks.